I will do that.
I'm recording now.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the Job Developers Community of Practice call. And as always, facilitated by Joni Dolce, who does such a marvelous job. I appreciate that you took your time to come here today. It's presented by the Healthcare Authority and specifically the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery. After the session, I will end up sending the PowerPoint to you and the recording link once it's finalized. And then if we have any questions or other requests for documents, we'll make sure you attach those too. But you'll get an email with those things included in it. So thank you for joining, and thank you, Joni.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. We'll get started. So today we are talking about career advancement. If you could just make sure to mute your mics as you join the call, that would be great. We have some people coming on, which is wonderful. We're going to talk about a variety of ways to help job seekers advance in their careers or consider career advancement. As Dawn mentioned, we're recording the session, so if you can turn off your cameras, mute your mics, but we're going to have a lot of interaction throughout the session today, so there will be times when you can unmute or use the chat feature. Dawn typically monitors the chat for the session, so she'll be keeping an eye in the chat, so please, if you have any questions, but we're going to get started. And today we're going to look at always looking at what some successes and challenges have been in terms of job development or providing services over the last month or couple of months. We're also going to get into looking at different approaches to assist job seekers that you're working with in moving beyond entry-level positions. We're going to talk about and apply strategies to build social capital, kind of look at that and what that means to career advancement. And then we're also going to describe specific strategies to assist individuals in advancing in their current jobs. Maybe that's requesting a promotion or a salary increase. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about how to help someone decide whether it's time to move on. And I have a checklist that we'll provide, and it'll be here, and you can look into it to really help people identify, maybe it's time for me to go. Maybe this is this position isn't allowing me the career advancement opportunities that I want. So let's get right into talking about some challenges and successes. So I apologize. I really wanted this to say, what was one success that you had over this past month? So what was one success over the past month? And then if you can give a little bit of detail about those successes, so you can use the chat box or unmute your mic. When we talk about our successes and talk about challenges, it really helps the group to be able to identify options or alternatives to what they might be doing. It also allows us this space every month to celebrate successes and really look at what are some things that are going right with the program or right with your job development efforts or even employment services in general. Michelle has her hand raised if you wanted to unmute. And it also looks like we have something in the chat. Michelle Bishop, did you want to say something? Your hand was raised. Roger, did you have something to say, or are you accidentally unmuted?
Accidentally unmuted.
Okay, that's fine.
Joni, I do see that Whitney says finding a client that was unemployed for almost 5 years employment.
That's
Huge
fantastic.
success.
So what do you think contributed to that success, Whitney?
I'll just unmute so I don't have to type.
That's fine.
I think just the relationship with the client themselves. I think that it's because it's not about finding them employment, because it's easy to find somebody a job, but you want to make sure you find them a job that they're going to want to stay at, that they're going to enjoy.
Absolutely.
So I think that discovery process, just taking time during that process and making sure that we're applying for the right jobs that are a good fit, was very helpful for sure.
Absolutely. Making sure that job match is there, making sure that you're developing a relationship with the person and you're really getting to know what the person's interests are, values are, hopes and dreams, and then trying to make that match in the community. That sounds great. Dawn, is there something else that popped up in the chat? I know Michelle has her hand raised. Michelle, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to kick out a dog that was throwing up in my office.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
As far as
Oh, dear.
success, I have a customer that I have been working with, and she had a template that she was using for her resume, and she wasn't getting anywhere with it really. And I took a training on JobScan, which is amazing, by the way. And I got her connected with that JobScan and learned that she needed to revamp her resume. And that was a much better tool than me trying to explain to her why we needed to make some changes. She had only been using the program for 2 weeks. She called me on Monday. Now, I predominantly work with injured workers. So her job of injury at the time was $17 an hour. She called me on Monday, super, super excited. She had just signed a job offer letter making $57 an hour.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. That's a great success. And kind of goes along with our topic today of career advancement, recognizing opportunities and assisting people that you're working with in reaching out. And we're going to get into that, but let's talk briefly about, thank you for sharing those successes. Let's talk a little bit about any challenges that people may have encountered over the last month, whether it's with job developing or providing employment services. These discussions help Dawn and I and Darren to identify future topics and to really get an understanding of what might be standing in the way of certain job development skills. So let's talk a little bit and use the chat as usual, or just unmute your mic. Looks like someone unmuted. Let's see. Did someone? Okay.
I heard a noise too, but
Yeah, I heard it too. And for some reason, I can't see the name, but I just, if you wanted to say something, definitely unmute your mic. Any other challenges? And it doesn't have to be this past month. It could be last few months, something that you've been kind of struggling with and maybe want to get the group's opinion or suggestions around.
I think folks are waiting for their coffee to kick in.
Yeah.
That's
I
personal
I can say something. So
sure.
one thing that I've noticed that can be kind of frustrating is, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but a lot of times people will say that they're hiring, but it's really hard for me to get clients interviews, and it's really hard for me to get a hold of anybody. And I don't know if that has anything to do with like the pandemic. I have no idea, but I feel like since COVID, that has gotten a lot worse. And I'm usually pretty persuasive and can get pretty much just about anybody an interview. So it was surprising to me, but I've talked to other job developers as well, and they've kind of been experiencing that a little bit too.
I'm not surprised. People are still kind of working a hybrid or working primarily from home. Might be more difficult to get in touch with people. If you are able to get in touch with an employer or two, maybe ask and say, thank them for their time, and maybe get some advice or get some suggestions from them and say, it's really been a challenge for me to get in touch with employers and hiring managers or HR professionals over the last however many months. What are some ways that you would suggest as an employer that could be helpful for me? So, oftentimes employers or others are really forthcoming with that information, and you'd be surprised at how willing they would be to talk with you about that. And that, again, kind of nurtures that relationship with that employer. Or if you belong to any Chamber of Commerce groups or business professional or organizations, you could also network with in those meetings, or if they're virtual or if they're in person, and maybe get a sense of what might be some of the best ways in your region, in your area, to get in touch with employers. Are others experiencing something similar to Whitney? Dawn, are you seeing this when you're meeting with sites and employment services?
Absolutely am. I'm hearing that agencies are having a tough time getting a hold of employers, and I have to wonder. I know that nationally there's a shortage of workers, and
Yes.
I've yet to see a place that one of the supported employment agencies that's actually fully staffed. I mean, and I shouldn't say that's not an absolute, because I haven't talked to absolutely every supported employment agency, but a lot of them are short-staffed, and a lot of businesses, you see now hiring signs everywhere.
Everywhere.
Lance actually says when employers say we're accepting applications, when I reply with, but are you hiring, they seem confused by that. They don't say it, but why should my applicant take the time to apply if they're not actually hiring? It's interesting to me that sometimes national chains like Home Depot don't manage their own notices related to hiring. I know when I did job development, most it's like I'd go to Home Depot and say, oh, you're hiring for this? And they'd say, well, no, not really. National thinks we are, but we aren't. So I think some of the time it's not of their doing, not of their, not their fault.
Yeah, that's frustrating, Lance, for you and for the person you're working with. However, I might suggest, continuing to network and build that relationship, even if they're not hiring. Encourage the person to submit the application, help that person, identify what to put on a resume, and I'm sure you're doing all of that, but it is, in addition to increasing the likelihood of getting a position, also good practice for the person when completing applications, whether it's an online application or in person. Dawn, is there another chat?
He just added to it, yes, it's good practice for the job seeker.
And maybe that's something we add on our list. I think it might even be included on how to manage kind of, I don't want to say negative responses, but responses from employers, like what Lance was suggesting. How do we, as job developers, employment specialists, manage those types of responses? So I think maybe we'll add that to the list, maybe in January, or if we need a call, if we need one for December, that would work too. All right,
Okay,
so
got it.
why don't we move into our content, unless someone had something else that they wanted to talk about?
Whitney also said, I've had a lot more success with locally owned businesses instead of corporate locations.
And it depends on your area, right? I was doing some work in New York City with the different boroughs, and surprisingly, some of those neighborhoods were really, those small kind of mom and pop shops were really not welcoming and not interested in kind of hiring someone from the unknown, if you will. Other neighborhoods were much more willing and interested. So I think if that's something in your neighborhood, in your area, by all means capitalize on that. And if it fits the person's career goal, wonderful. So we're going to talk about, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dawn.
I'm sorry, I didn't say there was one more.
Go ahead.
Amanda said we've had several employers require a driver's license for positions that do not include driving as part of the job duties. Very frustrating.
Yes. So how to manage that frustration? So what are some ways that others might have dealt with that when an employer requests a driver's license and there's no driving required for that job? What are some ways to kind of address that or overcome that obstacle? Certainly could help someone obtain a license if that's possible for the person. If they're able to spend that time and money to obtain a driver's license. Yeah, it's interesting to hear from other employers their thoughts of that too. So if you do have a relationship with an employer, maybe that's something that you could review with them. Hey, we've been encountering this issue with employers requesting a driver's license when the job doesn't require driving. Why do you think that is? Maybe hearing it from an employer could be really helpful information. So let's talk about, what does career advancement mean? I keep hearing a little ding. Does anyone else, or is it just me hearing that on my end?
You know, that's my fault. I apologize
Oh.
when folks respond in Teams. I wish I could say I knew how to turn it off, but I don't.
That's okay. We'll just have it as background
mute
music. Background noise, music. So as we talk about career advancement, we always want to ask the person that we're working with what it means to them. Just like when we're clarifying work values, clarifying work interests, really get from the person, what does that mean to them? So let's open it up to you. What does career advancement mean to you? Think about your own careers, think about your own times that you've advanced in your careers. And this is a way for us to really, again, I think Whitney mentioned it, really get from the person that you're working with, the job seeker, what is it that career advancement means? And it helps us to identify and help the person clarify, does it mean going back to school? Does it mean asking for a promotion? Does it mean staying with your current company, but asking for a salary increase? Dawn, it looks like we have something in the chat.
We do. Three new messages. One of them relates to the prior question, and Susan had said, advocate for the customer by negotiating a state ID instead.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. Related to your current question, Paul had said added responsibility. Darlene had said something they would like to change, something that makes them feel they succeed. Said at Susan, great idea. Laura said added responsibility and ability to influence greater structural changes. Roseanne said the opportunity for higher wage, more responsibility, and new opportunities. Paul said more pay.
So it means different. It means something different to everyone. Those answers were very different from each other. Some were similar. It could mean increased wages. It could mean a bigger title, more prestige, work that's more enjoyable or more aligned with what your interests are. You had mentioned advanced skills or additional skills, maybe being recognized more by your company or organization, or having more flexibility. So it doesn't mean the same to everyone. And that's why really clarifying with the job seeker you're working with what it means then help that person kind of progress to the next steps, whether that's a refined SMART goal or whether that's something within the organization that you can assist them in terms of, like we've mentioned, requesting a salary or promotion, salary increase or promotion. Why might someone want to advance in their career? Just if you wanted to unmute your mic or use the chat again. And Dawn, I'm hope it looks like I see a few things.
Yeah, got a couple of new
Yes.
ones. Darlene had said, ready for a change.
Mhm.
Michelle, they may feel stagnant or bored.
Yeah. Bored, ready for a change. Maybe the person needs more money. Maybe the person wants to obtain a driver's license. And maybe, they're unable to pay for that with their current job, or maybe they want to live somewhere different or go on vacations or whatever that more money provides them. But maybe that's the reason for someone's interest in advancing in their career. Maybe they feel like they deserve more money. Maybe they feel like, Dawn, are you seeing my
Yeah.
screen? Okay. I don't know how that
Yeah,
just.
it's interesting. It's something down at the bottom of
Oh,
the
there it
screen
is.
that popped.
Um,
Yeah,
maybe they're
Amanda
feeling like
had-
they're not. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, so I
No,
apologize.
please,
I
no,
do.
interrupt. I want to hear what's in the chat, and others do too.
Amanda had said pride, ready for more responsibility, financial goals. Lance had said increased pay and responsibility. Susan had said career advancement has direct financial impact.
Direct financial. Maybe people are unchallenged. And we're going to talk about maybe people want to get out of the secondary job market into the primary job market. So just a kind of an overview of what that looks like. When we are working with people, we should be encouraging individuals to move from the secondary job market into the primary job market. As you can see, the benefits of that are significant. So you can see that on the right-hand side is the unemployment rate. On the left-hand side is the wages, earnings. And as you can see, from less than a high school diploma on upwards to advanced degrees, you're protected significantly from unemployment, as well as your wages are increased. And this is pretty obvious, but a slide like this from the Bureau of Labor Statistics helps others, helps maybe family members see if you're encountering challenges related to maybe family members or others in the person's life, or even the person themselves not really seeing value in going back to school, or seeing value in attending a training program, or advancing, or obtaining a high school diploma. A slide like this, or a discussion around these topics, could really help illuminate to the person the importance and how protective these additional credentials and training can have on the person's career and career advancement.
There were a couple of other comments. Kamla, I hope I'm saying that right, says change from labor work towards office environment due to physical health issues. Laura said better understanding of top level tasks.
Absolutely. So career advancement can have many faces, many different things that we could look at. Here are 5 that I kind of retrieved from an article that's listed here, 5 kind of critical ones that I thought. It could be lateral. So it could be a new job that has the same status, same pay, maybe outside of that organization. So, but maybe that lateral move would provide additional kind of rungs to the ladder of career advancement. And if the person, doesn't make that lateral move, maybe they'll never be able to advance in that particular career. Enrichment, so kind of growing in place. So helping the person advocate and talk with their employer about ways that they can maybe receive additional training or other types of enrichment, mentoring through the company or through the business, a way for them to kind of grow as they're working in that environment. Maybe more advancement typical, the traditional climbing the ladder that we think of, going from, the hierarchy within that organization. I think this number 4 is interesting. And a lot of these, are transferable, even if you're kind of thinking on for yourself in your own career advancement. Realigning or taking a step down, I think, is really an interesting way to view. You may need to, there may be other parts of the organization that allow like a straighter line for advancement, and maybe realigning yourself, whether it's in that same company or outside of the company, to be able to take advantage of those. Can you think of any examples for any of these? And then 5 is relocation. So maybe it's time to move out. Maybe it's time to move beyond the current employer or current area that the person is living. Maybe in certain areas, the job or the career that the person is really interested in just isn't available, or isn't something that would ever be available. So if you think about these 5, are there any examples that you can think of, whether it's in your own career lives or people that you know, or job seekers in your services?
Well, Darlene had said, kind of related to the topic as a whole, I think, helps self-esteem too.
Helps, yeah. If we're not feeling valued or challenged, or even feel that there's something beyond where we are, yes, that can certainly affect someone's self-esteem. Any other thoughts about any of these 5 faces of career advancement, and maybe examples that you can think of?
One thing that happened with me when I felt a little stagnant at the job that I was at for 21 years, which could happen, I ended up with new projects, or would apply for new grants, and that felt like an advancement of sorts because I got to do something different.
I'm similar to you, Dawn. Have been here for over 20 years, and the same kind of situation, seeking out grants to write. So identifying some new skills, identifying some new challenges, and they happen to align with what the company, my department, values, getting grants. Or, even though the grant didn't turn out positively, having that challenge and working towards that definitely enriched and kind of provided some of those reasons that we talked about earlier.
Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, a comment on the realignment or take a step down. Sometimes if a certain position has a high level of stress, or a lot of travel and away from home, or things like that, I know people have looked to kind of take a step down to decrease the amount of stress or amount of travel, or something like that, to where it's maybe a better work-life balance, or not too stressful.
I agree, Paul. A better work-life balance, maybe reducing stress, and oftentimes when we have a better work-life balance, or our stress is reduced, we feel like we can take on maybe a little bit more challenging tasks, right? Or we feel that there's room to take on more interesting, I guess, tasks or opportunities that are interesting to us. I think that's a great suggestion, or great example.
Here's a good comment. Lateral moves sometimes offer change in job title and role, which provides future advancement opportunities.
So we want to be helping job seekers that we're working with explore these 5 areas. And if you click into this link for the actual article, it's very, it gives you lots of information, and it's brief read, but it has a lot of good tools in there, helping them kind of think through, what does that career advancement look like? It doesn't always have to be going back to school, or it doesn't always have to be returning to a training program. It could be these other areas, and thinking through that. And how can providers facilitate career advancement for people that we're working with? I think we talked, or I'm sure in your other SE trainings, the idea of career profile comes up, and we want to make sure that this is, career advancement options and alternatives and discussions are part of that career profile too, or we're adjusting the career profile. But the first step is just kind of what we talked about just a little bit ago. What's the person's meaning of career advancement? Is it, as you all mentioned, a higher salary? Is it solely challenging tasks or additional tasks or additional duties, or higher up in the hierarchy? So really clarifying what that person's meaning of career advancement is. We might need to revisit readiness assessment and development, looking at the person's satisfaction and success, feeling, do they feel that advancing, whether it's going back to school or advancing in their current job or relocating out, do they feel that that would be possible and positive? So revisiting some of that readiness, those areas of readiness. I think we've had discussions on that. Does the person know enough about themselves as a potential student, or someone in the career that they're aspiring to advance to? Maybe exploring that career a little bit more, maybe helping the person really look at what some of the positives of advancement. Maybe that slide that the BLS kind of nicely depicts the unemployment and the wages as you advance. So really revisiting that and helping the person assess and develop those areas, whether it's lack of awareness about what's out there, or lack of awareness about how their own skills can contribute to a career advancement, using motivational interviewing. So helping the person look at maybe some pros and cons, resolving ambivalence that the person might have regarding moving into an advanced position. So really looking at that cost benefit analysis. And that may help the person decide, should I stay or should I go? Is this something that I want to continue working in this job, or should I move on and identify an employer that might be more related to my interests? Here's a checklist that we can just kind of quickly look at to help the person just make that decision to stay at one's job or to begin searching for something else. Really looking at, one, does my current job offer opportunities to achieve my career goals? Second, does my current job offer opportunities to further my education or training in order to advance in my career? Does my current job contain my work-related values, preferences, and interest? And really kind of assisting the person in asking those questions and reviewing, is this current job a job that I can see myself advancing in? And if you're still unsure about that, maybe using a decision-making checklist like this. How can I find out about career opportunities with my current employer? Some strategies might be talk to someone in HR or hiring personnel, look at the bulletin boards, whether they're online or if the person has like a break room, help them identify where those opportunities might be. Having a discussion with their own supervisor, if that makes sense. If the person is comfortable approaching the supervisor and asking about those opportunities. If not, maybe role playing some ways to approach the supervisor. What's the time frame? Dawn, did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry, no allergies are acting up.
Oh,
I
yeah,
won't
that's
eat
a,
again.
no. What are jobs available that match the person's interest? And the training questions, and then what are some of the next steps? But this kind of just provides like a nice, neat checklist, certainly not exhaustive, but a way to begin that conversation. And then some specific skills that we can help the person develop for career advancement are specific to kind of requesting that are listed here, specific to the job that they might be in right now, requesting a salary increase, how to go about requesting that, asking for a promotion or a change of job within the company. And then we're going to talk about that building social capital and also exploring options outside of the company. So asking for a promotion or a job change, not that easy to do a lot of times. Sometimes having some discussions with the person, helping the person practice is very helpful. Also helping the person identify criteria used for promotion. So what are some of the criteria in our own positions? If we were to think of a few criteria used for promotions within our organizations, and then you want to help kind of brainstorm or discuss with the person in their company, what are some of the criteria. So think about it. Let's really look and answer this question. You don't have to name 3, but what's at least 1 or 2 criteria used for promotion within your current agency? And then kind of thinking about how we got that information, who you needed to talk to, and what are some of the other criteria? Or what are the criteria? I know for my position, one of the main criteria is having an advanced doctoral degree. And that, you have to have that in place before you're promoted to anything beyond assistant professor. That information is found in our faculty handbook, on our website. We have a pretty extensive learning management system with all of that information in there. We could also talk to our HR department, and there's a process in place for that. So think about your own positions now. What is one criteria used?
I see, excuse me, goodness. Susan, for the last question, had said relocation also often personal opportunity. For example, one could relocate for a lower cost of living or life balances.
Yeah.
So for this, and Paul had said leadership skills, good past performance. Amanda said business needs, staff changeover, education can play a part depending upon position, customer service attitude. Michelle says have to have 1 of 3 national certifications related to my field.
Yes. Yeah. And then in addition to identifying what the criteria is for promotions, kind of help that person really discuss their achievements and past achievements and skills and strengths that they have. A lot of that was probably done early on when you were working with the person in completing the career profile when the person first started working with you. But as you continue to work with the person, continue to talk about achievements that the person is able to identify in current positions or past achievements, so that they can have something to discuss with the employer. So this is just a very rudimentary role play, something just to kind of leave you with that you can possibly use when you're working with someone. Diana, can you please mute? So here's just a quick little role play that might be helpful when you're helping the person kind of think about what to say when they're meeting with their supervisor about a promotion. I'm interested in being promoted or changing jobs to helping that person identify what that position is, what they've been successful at over the past however many months or years, how they've demonstrated their ability to be innovative, as shown by certain examples of that. I feel my knowledge and skills have been an asset to the company because maybe identifying how the company might have flourished, or some tangible, concrete things that have that were positive due to that person's skills. Maybe they've been able to decrease, if they're in retail, maybe they've been able to decrease shoplifting, or whatever that might be. Or if they're, in other positions, maybe they've, but help the person identify how they've been an asset to that company, what their employee evaluations have consistently looked like, that they're, a value to the team, or dependable, reliable, whatever makes sense, but really kind of discussing, having these thorough discussions with people to get at these kind of blank spaces that are listed here. And then requesting a salary increase, again, similar challenges to that, right? I mean, if it's the thought of approaching a supervisor or other company executive and asking for a salary increase is a little daunting, but equipping the person that you're working with some of these skills, help the person identify and list their achievements. So you're kind of doing that, like we talked about in the similar promotion slide. Researching desired salary. There's a link here. You can kind of look at different salaries so that the person knows what is the going wage. You don't want to over or under. Maybe even talking to others who are in that same field, or even colleagues, if that is okay and comfortable to do. Coach the person on ways to deal with any disappointments. If the employer says, no, that's not possible, or whatever that kind of coach the person that may be the outcome, and how to deal with that and how to manage that. And then maybe teaching some other non-monetary compensation negotiations, I think people mentioned this earlier, having time off, tuition reimbursement, and so on, more flexible schedule, whatever might work. And again, there's a reference here. You can get some additional information. But I do want to.
Susan had said, for most of the population my team supports, one must have a high school credential. Then we coach them, excuse me, to what industry credential or certification they will need to enter a career pathway, and what other trainings will help them.
Great. That's very helpful. And then we also want to help someone build social capital. And social capital is really kind of those connections that we have with others, the benefits of building social capital. It really measures the impact or the degree of influence that we have through our networks. And the more influence and the more kind of connectedness that we have with others in our networks, whether it's professional networks, personal networks, could help us in our career advancement. We're going to talk about maybe some of that in our own lives, but networking is really the means through which you gain social capital. So I believe, Dawn, we've had some discussions in our past sessions on networking, but we can certainly add a little bit more in the future. But
that would be a good one.
Yes. So when we look at it from a network, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dawn.
Joni, I have to step away for a moment. Sorry.
Yes. No, that's fine.
Joni?
Yes.
I think it's also interesting, a number of people that haven't worked for a decade or a number of years, they don't have this social capital, right? Or they may not have interacted with people. and in those work circles, coworkers and things like that. And so it may be kind of a scary time, but for them to kind of establish that and learn that, and then as they maybe move up onto another position or a different company or a promotion or something like that, where they would need to have that build up that social capital with others.
Thank you, Paul. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And here are some ways that we can help job seekers or employees that we're working with build social capital. Maybe help them identify, are there mentoring opportunities within the organization? We're going to talk about within the organization and outside of the organization. Right now, we're talking about within the company. And just like Paul mentioned, people may be new to the company, may be new to working, may not have the vocational maturity, may be unfamiliar with some of the office kind of politics or mores or kind of what goes on culturally within an environment of an organization. So sometimes helping that person really look at, are there mentors? Are there people, whether it's other colleagues or supervisors, or if some companies have formal mentoring programs. There also might be formal activities within the workplace to help build capital. During the pandemic, my department, every Friday at 4:30 or 5, they have like a Zoom get together. And they've been doing it, and you can hop on, you can go months and months and months without hopping on. It's definitely not a formal activity, but it's something that, again, helps kind of build your social capital so you get a chance to chat. Some formal activities within the workplace might be, maybe they have, sports leagues, or maybe they go out to celebrate people's birthdays or other achievements. Maybe other formal activities would be, book club that they have, and they still might be voluntary, they're not required activities, but they're kind of formally in place within the workplace. I know we have a book club with one of the teams that I work with. Again, it's voluntary, but it's a way to build that social capital, spend some time with coworkers that I wouldn't normally spend talking about non-work related topics. And again, just spending time with coworkers, really helping someone, like Paul said, find ways to be part of a lunch group, or role play how to, ask to be invited to maybe an event outside of work, or whatever that is. But spending time with coworkers, really making an effort to do that, and coaching the person how to do that, providing some really good skill development in those areas could be really helpful. And then outside of the organization, again, there might be outside mentors, any professional associations that might make sense for the person to join, developing social skills. So kind of working with you and developing those social skills to maybe use outside or even inside the organization is certainly very helpful. So think about one strategy that you have used in your current or past jobs to build social capital, thinking about what we just talked about. So one strategy or one thing that you've done or have done in the past to build social capital within your position. And I guess it could be outside of the organization too.
Joni, as far as outside the organization, I think informational interviewing can just be such a great tool that, hey, you don't know me, but could I sit down with you for 20 minutes, an informational interview, gathering more information about, you and your role in the company, and it's networking, it's forming a connection with them. And certainly you could do that within an organization. Hey, let's have lunch together, or that type of thing. But informational interviewing, especially looking to maybe join another organization or learn more about it, it can be a really great tool.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I think we mentioned it earlier. People enjoy talking about their jobs and enjoy and welcome. I mean, think about if someone were to approach you to ask some information, kind of a low stakes interview, not really applying for a job, but really wanting to get a sense of what the position's all about. Yep, I thank you for mentioning that. So having an informational interview is helpful. Again, the book club that I am connected with one of my teams is a strategy that I've used, has enabled me to really network with others in my department that I don't typically have a chance to meet with. Let's see, we have something here in the chat. Always smiling and doing your best to help others. That's a great suggestion, Darlene. Thank you. And it looks like we have a couple. Yes, Darlene, it causes the person to want to talk to you. Yes, joining boards that support professional development, be willing to be a mentor. Yes, if the company has a mentoring program, putting yourself out there to be a mentor. If a company has a newsletter, online blog, or whatever that is, and the person has skills in that area, maybe the person can contribute to that, or work on that committee, or whatever that group is called. But yes, I think thinking about those ways to help someone build that social capital if they don't have it, and that could be an entire session on its own. And then it might be time to move on. The person might have gone through the checklist and might have decided I won't be able to advance in this career. I'm better off moving on. So helping the person, again, relook at their values. What did they learn from that experience on the job? Looking at past jobs, the current job, interest inventories, self-directed search or career exploration inventory are a couple of tools. I know we've had some sessions on those, but we can certainly add some more. I think I added in the reference list. ONET is another occupational information resource. The Occupational Information Network is ONET, has variety, thousands of positions and different occupations that you can look at. Occupational Outlook Handbook. These links will get you right into those. So the person can really examine what the career involves and what types of maybe additional skills or training they might need. So we are at the end of it. I want to leave some time for questions, and it looks like we have one more in the chat. Yep. Kamala wrote, continue education, connection to community resources. Yep. Education opportunities, even if it's a fun, pottery or other type of class, again, connects people and builds that social capital. So think about a person receiving services from your agency who's interested in advancing in their career. And we're just going to use kind of the main group here. You can unmute your mic or use the chat and think about what are the barriers that are preventing the person from advancing or moving forward. So think about a person that you might be working with and think through what some of the barriers might be to the person moving forward in their career. And then what are 3 strategies from our session today that could help the person, and how would you apply those strategies? So you can be thinking about this, using the chat, We have just a couple of minutes. Anyone have someone that they can think of? And even if we don't have a chance to put it all together today, Susan, yes, if you wanted to raise your hand.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I work for an agency that supports youth through employment and education. And so majority of them, when they come in, they are seeking employment pathways or high school completion.
Mhm.
And the challenge that we're seeing is that trying to help them understand that, yes, they drop out of school, but there's a requirement for them to even, from employers in the requirements for a minimum of a high school diploma. And so helping them chart that pathway to re-engage with high school completion, and then find a training program to understand that, okay, I might start as, for example, we have a lot who want to enter the medical field, but we say, okay, maybe you start with exploring nursing assisting, and then move towards entering a college program for maybe a registered nursing degree, and being that mentor for them and helping them navigate that.
I love those strategies. I think those are great strategies. Continue to think about some additional strategies as we kind of approach the 1 minute. I just want to make sure we have some time for questions and answers or comments before we sign off. And I know Dawn has usually a couple of words. Some of the references are here. Oh, Dawn, I forgot that last slide, but if you wanted to sign off or have anything maybe to say.
Yes, please. As always, thanks for being here, and do watch for the recording and the PowerPoints to come out to you in an email. I also want to, kind of as always, let folks know that we are looking for agencies that would like to host a supported employment fidelity review, or if you have an interest in being fidelity reviewers, we're currently doing contracts for those activities. So if you have any interest, reach out to me and let me know. Or if you want to have a discussion and hear more about it, we can surely do that too. Thank you, Joni.
Great, thank you, everyone. See you next month. Have a good October, and we'll see you soon. Bye.